All right, welcome to the I Can Do It podcast. I can do it. I can say it podcast. Here with this, I'm Carl IKEN. That's my brother over there, Brian. How we doing tonight, Brian?
I'm doing pretty good. Just chilling out, getting ready for the football season is my big thing right now.
Yeah. Well, the Jets actually, in my 50 years, the Jets might actually have a shot at something this year.
Hey, well, let's not, let's not.
Yeah. I have 50 years of saying, what if, what's one more year?
I got 45, so it's all the same.
Yeah, exactly. But I wanted to start off because I know you saw my rant yesterday about the Yankees, and I know you're not following it as closely as I am this season. But what is your thoughts so far on the Yankees?
Listen, I anticipate this. When you lose, in my opinion, I know Shohei is the all-around best baseball player, pitcher, hitter. He has it all. But Aaron Judge is the most important player in baseball for any team, and you can see it with the Yankees not doing well. That not having in the lineup just makes that lineup look like garbage. But I'm not also my thing with the Yankees is that I've seen a lot of success, so my focus is always not with them, but I like to keep an eye on how they're doing and stuff. I'd like them to do well, but I'm also not one of these overreactionary fans that freak out every game and every inning.
What do you call? Are you calling me out?
Absolutely. You're psychotic. Hey, listen, I love it, but the reality is, and I love the Yankees, and Don Mattingly is my boy and everything else, but I've also gotten to the understanding that the baseball season is too long. So it's hard for me to get so in depth and worried about it. And living in New York and hearing New York radio, and you just mentioned to me privately about Michael Kay's show and everything else, it's very tough to constantly hear them badger every day, every little thing, that I lose interest. So that's why I pretty much stop watching games, or I catch it a little bit here when I'm free. I just can't read into it because it's just too long. If they cut it back to like hockey and basketball games, like 81, 82 games, it would be more interesting. But
I can see that. You asked me earlier today when we talked on the phone about the new rules in baseball. And I love the new rules. And one of the things I told you was one of the things I love about it is the game's about 2 hours and 45 minutes, unless it goes into extra innings. And I love that because the pitch is one after the other. None of the gamesman shit that you had said earlier, where the guys will step out or step in or step off. And so it definitely moves very quickly. You got to pay attention. Yeah, all that stuff.
Garcia went back in the day.
Yeah, but I got to call you. I got to go back to what you just said before about Ohtani and how Judge is without Judge, the Yankees are not doing well. Baseball isn't football. You know what I mean? Like in football, if you lose a quarterback, you lose a key player of the game, that affects the whole team. Baseball is 9 guys playing, 9 guys hitting. So yeah, Aaron Judge is a huge plus to the Yankees. He's a great motivator to be in there, but to have all these guys like Stanton, LeMahieu, Donaldson when he was there, Torres, Rizzo, all these guys that get paid millions of dollars, and they're good players, great players in their own right, and for all of them not to hit, I don't understand that. I don't understand how a team can just fall apart because one player isn't there. That to me doesn't make sense.
Well, I look at it as this way. When you're looking in the fielding defensively, it's a different story. But when you're looking at the batting and the batting order and who you put in what order and where you place them, it changes how batters play. And it changes how pitchers are going to pitch. You don't have to worry about Judge being there, so you can put a little bit more effort in getting out some of these guys. And when you do have guys who are streaky, like a Stanton or a Donaldson, that aren't really hitting, it makes it even harder on them. When Judge is there, their focus is worried about, who's going to come up after him, who's going to come up for him. Are we going to be able to get him out? Is he going to get that hit? Is he going to hit the bomb? So I do think I think it just proves it the last couple of years. When he's not doing well, the team becomes an average team.
And but they're playing well below average now. They're not average. You got guys like Rizzo. Rizzo should be a threat. Rizzo started off the year gangbusters, hitting home runs. He's had no home runs in like 43, 44 games. He hasn't hit a home run. That is ridiculous.
I wonder who's been missing in those 40-plus games when Rizzo, started really declining. I just can't put my finger on it. I don't know. I mean, I laugh a little bit because of the fact when I think about it, everybody's talking about Ohtani and he's hitting all these home runs. And I'm looking at it and I was like, Ohtani's into 80 games already playing. And he's got like so many home runs. And I'm like, and Judge got like half his numbers in half the number of games. So Judge would be right there. I just think the dynamic changes with Judge. I don't think it's very much like that with many other players in baseball right now. But I think, You looked at the Cardinals back when they had McGuire and he was doing those home run chases, or Barry Bonds. When you have that guy that threatens to not only hit but also get it deep, it can change that lineup when he's not there. And I just think that's what it is. I just think they don't know how to live without him. And
yeah, but that's a sad state of the Yankees if they have to rely on one player. Because I'm sorry, like I said, you got 9 guys. Rizzo's getting paid millions. Donaldson's getting paid millions. Stanton is supposed to be that guy. That he should be the threat. DJ LeMahieu is supposed to be the guy that gets on base. I mean, he's not. I'm not looking for him to hit home runs. I'm looking for him to get on base and move guys over. I mean, I know you don't watch a lot of the games, but if you watch a lot of the games, the guys that are getting the hits are like the next guy up kind of guys, like Cordero yesterday, or every once in a while Volpe and Peraza the other day, and IKF kind of playing all over the place. You got these stars that are supposed to be. They're paid to play and hit home runs and get on base and drive excitement in the Yankee fan base, and they are flat. They are dead. I mean, this team is. I don't know if you've spoken to Mom, and for those of you paying attention, our mom is a diehard Yankees fan. But this team is absolutely atrocious to watch. I mean, I used to go to watch a game and be like, all right, they're down a run or two late in the game, they have a chance. If the other team scores in the first or second inning before we score, I'm like, they're done. They have no chance.
I mean, listen, the starting pitching hasn't been consistent enough to give you the benefit with the hitting not hitting well. And then you have the bullpens getting used a lot, so therefore they're not going to be at 100% coming in to save you every night with a close run game. But you're right. There's none of this hope. Like during that time when the Yankees over the last 15 years prior to the last few, you always felt if they were within 2 to 3 runs, they were still going to be in the game in the 8th, 9th.
Exactly.
Inning. You don't have that feeling anymore. You feel like if they're down going into the 6th inning, down by 2 or 3 runs, it's pretty much game over from what I get from most people like you that watch it more consistently than I do.
Yep.
But I can't get myself stressed out on a team.
Oh, I get myself stressed out.
It's just, I get stressed out on a lot of sports and paying attention to sports, but like with the Yankees, maybe it's because during the heart of being a fan from the early 90s, when I was in my teens and the early 20s to even, as recently as the last 5 years ago, I had so many great players that you knew were clutch and had these championships come around. I'm not even upset that they haven't won a championship in what was the longest drought in their history.
15 years. Well, 14 years.
It's close to that area. But, one thing I will say this. I think what Yankee fans need to understand is that I think this was eventually going to happen because most fans are so headstrong thinking that the Yankees have to win every year that they never really get to truly do a rebuild or stockpile and fans will be okay if they don't make the playoffs or if they're a 500 team for a couple years with players like you mentioned. We have some young players that you think are going to be good contributors.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
but we haven't gotten those studs except for Judge. I mean, think about it.
Here's the thing, though. This where the Yankee fans got this from was from Cashman, was from Howe, where they came out and said it's World Series or bust. We expect to be in the World Series every year. So the Yankee fans have just followed the lead of what the ownership and what the GM of the team has said. So we're expecting that they're going to at least make the playoffs. I mean, right now they're in last place, and they're, I think, 2 games out of out of the 3rd wild card spot, which is just mind-boggling to me.
Well, put it this way: if Judge gets back within what would he say? But maybe 2 weeks, 3 weeks, maybe. He seems like I heard he's on his way a little bit. He gets back, and they can stay within those 2 to 3 games. It's not what we want. I think Cashman's goal is be always in the playoff contention. I think that's his goal. I don't think it's World Series, and no matter what Hal says, I really don't think their goal is World Series or bust. I think it's maintain a certain level with their payroll and make them team always competitive to where they're always a topic to talk about. And they're never out of the limelight a little bit. Like right now, you go on there, Yankees, this whole idea that they're out of the playoff race is a story to a lot of people. I just think,
I don't know. And I know you saw it yesterday when I said it. I just think that this team has not, like back in the day when we were younger and when they won those 4 out of 5 years, the team was built to win championships. You had guys that could hit home runs. You had guys that could get on base. You had pitching that could, starters that could go 6, 7, 8 innings. You had obviously you had Mo to close everything out. The Yankees don't have a closer. They don't have a set closer. There's no such thing. It hasn't been a closer for a couple of years. And I don't know. I just think that I don't think they're built to win a World Series. Every year, when they've made it to the playoffs, the Astros just destroy them, and it's because once the Yankees get to the playoffs and they face playoff pitching, that home run derby style of play it doesn't translate into the postseason. But I don't actually think that Hal or Cashman even care, because if we make it to the playoffs every year, even if we get bounced, guess what? They sell tickets. They sell tickets. They sell merchandise, which is why they sign Judge. So they sell tickets, sell merchandise. He makes a fortune. Obviously, a World Series helps them, but I don't really think that they're bought into caring whether they win a World Series or not. And I think that's what's frustrating to the Yankees fans.
But I also think there's a misconception. You mentioned about that 90. I would like to say 94 is when it started, when they had the strike shortened season, the one that we thought that they were the best team next to them, then the Expos. I really think when you everybody looks at that team and goes, they were dominating, they built the team, and that's the George Steinbrenner way. But the reality is, the majority of that team was built without George Steinbrenner actually being there.
Yeah, I know.
So my mentality is that if fans want to look back at George and go, it's World Series or bust. When he had that mentality, they were horrible in the 80s. They were the best non-playoff team in the 80s. They had the best record in the 80s out of all the Major League Baseball, but could never make the playoffs. That's why they're the first wild card ever. It was because pretty much they put the wild cards. We got to get the Yankees in. So my mentality is that I would not mind taking a step back, stop worrying about trading and getting these higher priced players and stuff like that, and taking a year or two to redevelop that farm system. I forgot the guy's name. Is it Cabrera or something like that? That's tearing it up right now with hits in the minors. And building the team the right way for a couple of years.
Probably Florial, I would guess. Because right now the rookies, Cabrera played last season too at the end, but you got Cabrera, obviously you got Volpe that's been there all season, and you got Peraza that just got called up. So you got three kind of rookies that are on the roster, three shortstops, middle infielders right now, which is whole another discussion on we don't have an outfielder, so that's a problem. But
I honestly, I know they rushed a gun with Stanton to get Stanton when they could. They took the bullet, not knowing if they didn't want to wait for Harper. This is the problem I have. I also will say this is the big thing I have with the Yankees and the way they've taken on that analytical aspect is that the analytics they use for the regular season, knowing that they're probably going to get into the playoffs using analytics. But the problem is they don't know how to transition and have Boone be a manager when you can't use analytics in the playoffs. Like you mentioned, pitching gets better. This gets better. You can't use the analytics anymore. It's a crapshoot. I think we need a manager that can do the thinking for them. Like that's why I almost wish we had Buck Showalter back.
Yeah, well, one of the things I heard today is I don't know if it was on the Michael Kay show or it might have been on the Michael Kay show, and they were talking about, is it at the point now where the players know that it's such analytical driven that you got these guys somewhere behind a keyboard that are sending Aaron Boone the lineup every day and telling him what he should do in each position? Have the players actually lost respect for Aaron? Like, does Boone not have the control of the team? Because there are a lot of mind-boggling decisions that I've seen this season where you're like, why did you take the pitcher out there? He's dealing. Why didn't you bunt here? Or why didn't you do this here? That's normal baseball knowledge. Obviously, I've coached baseball since my son was little. And there's a lot of just common sense baseball stuff where I don't think, and I know Aaron Boone knows it because he played the game, but I'm there, has the team lost respect for him to a certain degree because he doesn't ultimately make the final decision, that he's just being told what to do because of analytics?
I think the Yankees as a team and even the players, I don't think they have lost respect for Boone. I think they all just understand that that's the way it is. And I actually think the hitters are told, this is what I want you to do on this pitcher. I want you to swing away. I want you to aim for the home run because obviously baseball wants the home run ball because that keeps everybody interested. I just don't think single small ball is not a big game anymore. I mean, I'm watching, what was it, a few days ago, there were like 11 teams that had over 10 runs in one single slate of baseball this week. I think the long ball feels like you could bet on anybody every day and get a home run that win.
I don't know. I mean, because some of the new rules, the making the bases bigger, part of it was safety, but the other part of it was to increase and they only can throw over twice. the pitcher can only throw over twice, was to make the game more, get stealing back into the game. I think the reason why baseball isn't growing as quickly as it could is because it only relies on the home run. If you watch a baseball game right now for any team, if a home run's not hitting the game, people say it's boring. The most
Mm-hmm.
exciting games I've seen this season are when the Yankees don't hit home runs and they're hitting singles and doubles and bunting guys over and moving them around. So I'm hoping that the pendulum swinging back the other way at this point, but who knows?
Yeah, I just think on a whole Major League Baseball, and listening to other shows of people that are more into the game, that it's like if you don't have home runs, that's what baseball wants. And that, I think, this idea is something that you like, which is a little bit more small ball. And I appreciate it, the game like that. I appreciate when a hitter's coming up and they're not swinging for the fences; they're just looking to push that player over. You know what I mean? I think
Yeah.
they did change the shifting rule too, didn't they? Change the shifting
Yeah, and
rule.
there's no shift allowed. So so the second baseman
They're
can't go
trying to
past
open up.
second.
I almost feel like MLB is trying to open up the small ball game, but analytics is still saying go long. And that's
Well,
what I think.
the anti-shift rule was put in place because to modern day, there's very few hitters. We have a lot of swingers. And they have one swing, and the analytics tell them this is your pitch when it's here. And it tells the pitchers, don't pitch him there because that's where he hits. Whereas in the old days, I think guys they went and they hit the pitch where it was. And they put it in play, and they were okay with getting a single. And they were okay with blooping a ball over. They just wanted to get on base. And nowadays, we got a bunch of swingers, and it's like home run or bust. That's a debate. I personally don't like it. I think less analytics. I think the Yankees were far ahead in analytics for a long time, and now they've been surpassed. They have this arrogance about them at the front office of the Yankees that we're the Yankees. We're great. We're this, and they're not. They're just average, and they've been just average for years. But they've been able to kind of live off the Yankee mystique for probably a decade now.
Now, I will say this is and I think this is the oddity of the season, is when you look at, and I'm just looking it up real quick, but when you look at like the standings right now, and you look at the American League East, the Yankees are 3 games over 500, right?
Well, they'd be in first place in the Central, and
What?
if they with their record right now, they'd be in first place in the Central, and they'd be in third place in the West.
To me, this is the one thing why I also think Yankee fans can't get too frustrated, is that you have oddities of Baltimore, I think, coming in a little bit more earlier, a year or two earlier than they anticipated for the team to be as good as they are. And then you have Boston, which just doesn't want to let go. I just think Yankee fans need to take a step back, breathe, and say, you know what? It with the injuries we've had to the special players, the fact that we're still in the hunt, even with the boneheaded plays, all those kind of things, I think a breath is necessary. I think you judge it. If Judge gets back before August hits, judge it through August, see if they are able to gain momentum, see if they're able to get back on track. But don't get too upset. Certain people wearing a 3 hat.
Well, here's the thing, though. When I look at the standings, and I know the American League East is the toughest division in baseball, but you look at the Orioles, you look at the Rays, and you look at their payroll, and then you compare their payroll to the Yankees, and you can even bring in the Mets. Steve Cohen of the Mets comes in, and you got the top 2 payrolls in baseball, the Yankees and the Mets, and guess what? They got nothing to show for it. You got teams like the Baltimore and the Rays, who, they use analytics, but they also build their team from within. The Yankees are a plug and play. Let's go get this guy for 10 years for 160 grand, 60 million or something. And we need to stop that. We need to just let Volpe play, let Peraza play, bring up Florial, bring up there's a catcher guy, I forget his name, but bring him up. And let's get rid of some of these. Let's get it. I love DJ, but DJ's done. Donaldson, thank God he's done. Stanton, I guess we're eating that contract, but as far as I'm concerned, he's done. I think you keep Judge, you keep Garrett Cole, you keep maybe Nestor Cortez and some of the guys in the bullpen, and then you just, for the rest of the season, bring guys up from the minor leagues, because that's what the Orioles did, and look where they are.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I remember I was bringing up before about how no New York fans want to allow the rebuild. It's weird. Knicks fans who are very much Yankee fans will understand when the Knicks go into rebuild, but then after a year or two, they go, "But why aren't we getting the high price players?" Like they just
Yeah,
it frustrates me as a fan.
Well, it's a New York thing, and even though I don't live in New York anymore. It's still a New York thing, and we want it now, and we don't want to wait. That's a New York
Yeah,
thing for sure.
yeah, and it's frustrating. I mean, I think it's more with. I think the teams that it's more in common with are the Yankees, the Knicks, the Rangers, and I would say Jets more than the Giants. I think the Giant fans were more okay if the Giants took a couple years to rebuild, and the fact that they had a team last year that made the playoffs, it was kind of shocking to the fans. But they understand we're going to go through rebuild. Jet fans, whenever I'm on, whenever if they don't, when they go through a bad year or two, they want to change everything. Let's get rid of this person, this person, this person. But they were already talking about getting rid of Salah at the beginning of the year last year, and with some things. I'm like,
Yeah.
are you ever going to allow someone just to take some time to
Well,
right?
here's the thing too. Like I'm watching, and I follow on Twitter and then on the other social media. You have Volpe, which all the Yankee fans, including myself, were like, "Yeah, bring him up, bring him up." Was he ready? I'm not sure. He's a 21-year-old kid. He's 1 year older than your nephew. That's a tough thing. And then I see just people tearing him apart. And I'm like, this kid is 21 years old. He's been a diehard Yankee fan all his life. And they bring him into a situation where he's basically never known the Yankees to suck. And now he's on the team. And the year he's on the team, guess what? They suck. All the people he looked up to are playing like garbage. I'm trying not to curse because last night I went a little crazy. But so
eventually,
yeah. So I look at like let's bring the young guys up. I just don't know how the Yankee fans will they allow them to grow? Will they allow them to have their ups and downs? Because a guy like Volpe, I don't know how anybody could expect him to be successful right now. He's in a clubhouse with no confidence. So, of course, he's going to have no confidence. He's got nobody to look up to. Everybody else is sucking, too.
Well, he came in and he did well, partially well early on. And all I heard was fans are, excited about him.
Yeah, well, he went up, and then he went down, and then he was going on a streak again, and now he's on an 0 for or like a 1 for 30 or something lately, something crazy like that. Well, here's the thing, too. I don't understand how the Yankee farm system works because you had Peraza, who got beat out with a shortstop, was basically doing pretty well in the AAA, and the only reason they brought him up is because Donaldson was out. Meanwhile, you got Donaldson. I get you're paying him money, but the Yankees are always so hesitant to bring guys up from the minor leagues and leave them up. They bring them up to help, and they send them down. I don't know if that has to do with service time and all the rules on that, but
I think I remember I think it was last year or something like that because the same kind of thing was going on a little bit. I think it comes down to more about the analytics again, where this is a young player that's going to learn his way, and I really think they don't think they have enough information on him, and they go, well, if I put this person back in, if it's Donaldson or Rizzo or something, this is what they're going to do, and it sort of hinders. But it could be a little bit of that, like when does that arbitration start happening? I think they have that in baseball, like all those kind of things. When does that timeline start for them, depending on how much time they play?
Yeah.
I know hockey.
Yeah, it's just frustrating. I don't know. I guess I really got to have a conversation with Mom. I was telling Mia, which for those of you listening is my daughter. I need to go over and be able to secretly tape Mom and get her reaction and put it on here, even if it's just the audio, because Mom's going to be. She's 75 years old, going on 76, and she's probably who knows. But
I guarantee she's going to flip out. She's going to curse. Yeah, our mom curses. She's not,
she's quiet except when it comes to she's quiet with everything else in the world except for the Yankees.
I will say she has cursed at me now that I'm older. She just doesn't care. But as younger, she would never do it. But now she's like, "You're a schmuck. You're an asshole. Stop it," kind of thing.
All right. Well, I guess I'll take your advice here and kind of see what happens here in August. I don't know, or the rest of this year. I mean, I don't know. I'm on the ledge, so I'm ready to jump. But and I really hope I actually am at the point where I want Cashman gone. I don't think he's been successful as a GM. I think he's great at picking pitchers that are cheaper. The Rodon thing is a problem for me. I know you saw that video yesterday where he was blowing kisses. Like, it's your third game as a Yankee. Good thing you didn't do that in Yankee Stadium, but now you're going to hear it when you get to Yankee Stadium.
Well, my question is, was that at Yankee fans or was that maybe?
Yeah, it was at Yankee fans. He's in his interview. If you watch, he understands that he should have just ignored it. He doesn't even remember what they actually said. He was pissed at himself. He was angry, and the Yankee fans were angry. And he even acknowledged that he understands that they are angry, and he just let it get the best of him. And I just feel bad for him because the Yankee fans are brutal. Look what they did to Hicks. Look what they did to Gallo. And you're your third game in, and you got a 6-year contract. He better figure out something to endear himself, because he's going to be hearing it in the bullpen before the game. He's going to be hearing it every time he's going to be hearing it for a little while now, unfortunately, because I think he could. I mean, I've been negative on him, but I guess I do have to give him the benefit. It's only 3 games back, and he's just. I think the culture is just a losing culture right now, and they need to turn that around. So, but I feel bad for Rodon. But I think Boone needs to be gone. I think Cashman needs to be gone. I think a full change needs to be made. But that's just where I stand on the Yankees. I kind of want a clean slate, and let's rebuild for a couple of years with everything.
Well, I don't. I mean, before we move on to something else, but like I will say this: I think Cashman is not the problem. I think it's the mentality of the organization and fan base as a whole not willing to. I mean, you think about it; they're the only team that's been consistently in the playoffs for the last 20 years and consistently competitive.
Maybe not this year.
And losing all those players from the early 2000s, through time and stuff like that, and yet still be a competitive team. And they didn't have to go through rebuild to do that, like Astros or like other teams are doing. But as fans, I think that's mostly just because of us. I think that's because they feel the stress to be competitive. I don't think they can deal with a year or two of sucking.
But. Yeah, well, we already are dealing with a year of them sucking. So I think at this point is if they're going to have a rebuild, now's the time to do it, because at least they have an excuse.
Yes.
We'll still be upset. We'll still want them to win every year. But at least now they'll have an excuse to say, hey, because I mean, I know you don't follow, but I know you heard me say it last night when the owner of the Yankees comes out in the middle of June and says, I'm confused. Why are Yankee fans upset? And, that just sets the fan base off even more. It set me off. It's like, what games are you watching? What do you see that we don't see? Because we know these players. I know these players inside and out. And so I don't know. I just think I think this whole season is just done. I hope they make the playoffs to a certain degree, but a part of me is like, you know what? Maybe they shouldn't, because that'll be a huge wake up call for ownership and the front office.
Okay. All right. We'll see.
All right, let's switch, because now let's switch to your forte here, the Jets.
Yeah.
I'm a Jets fan. I kind of stopped watching for the last few years just because it was brutal to watch, and I had better things to do on a Sunday. But I know you're just like I'm a diehard with the Yankees. You're a diehard with the Jets. So
I don't miss anything Jets.
Yeah, well, I won't this year because there is some excitement around Aaron Rodgers coming in. But let me ask you: so they finished last year 7-10. So where do you honestly, with Aaron Rodgers coming in and all the hype, obviously the defense is phenomenal. Where do you think they end up this year?
All right. So if you take that 7-10, there's a couple of things you got to look at. Some of those wins came against third or second string quarterbacks against teams. But they also had a couple of wins, losses against teams where they only lost by 1 or 2 scores because they can't score on offense. So a quarterback for us would have helped. But I look at it this way. The Jets were playing all season with a backup third string and a fourth string quarterback, if you think about it. If Wilson's your backup now, one guy, Flacco is retiring, and then you had Mike White, who is going to be a backup third string in another team. You can talk to the Jets only beat third string, second string quarterbacks when you're talking about Miami or anything like that. But yeah, okay. But that's who the Jets were playing with also. You know what I mean? So To me, I would anything lower than the reverse of that, 10-7, would be disappointment for me.
Okay, because they are going to be in the toughest, similar to the Yankees. They're going to be in the toughest division in the NFL.
Oh, they are in the toughest division. They have, in my opinion, probably the toughest start to the season. Like I've said to a bunch of people before, if they can come out of those first 7 games as 3-3, I would be ecstatic, because you're talking about you have Philly, you have KC, you have Buffalo, you have Miami, you have all these teams that you're vying for, that are top level, all playoff contending teams. There's not even a single one of that is not playoff contending. And Super Bowl contending necessarily, because it's going to be a slaughterhouse. It's like what I thought last year's Western AFC West was going to be was when you looked at Russell Wilson coming in to Denver, and you have Herbert, young quarterback, and you have
I'll put my Jets on since we're talking Jets. There we go.
so like when you look at the AFC West last year, everybody was like, that's going to be brutal. You have Russell Wilson coming in from Denver. You have, Mahomes. You have, Carr is a solid quarterback. And then you have Herbert. They thought that was going to be a torturous division. And I think that's now what the AFC East is. The only thing the Jets needed last year was a solid quarterback that can help them score points. Even with the loss of Breece Hall during the season, I think they would have probably had a more of an 8-9 kind of record, or 9-8 record if Breece Hall was there, because he was that kind of player. But I'm looking at 10-7 as the base of what I want. I anticipate they're going to finish with 12 or 13 wins. That's my prediction kind of thing.
So the bare minimum for you that you want to see is 10-7.
Correct. If you're in 10-7, you have to make the playoffs. Obviously, you have to make the playoffs. If you don't make the playoffs, it's a complete failure. But I'm not one of those people at Super Bowl and bust. I look at it as this way: it's a first year in. If you can guarantee Aaron Rodgers here for the second year, I think it's 10-7, making the playoffs as the minimum to be happy about or content with, and then making maybe winning a game or two in the playoffs. And then next year is the big year when you have Wilson going into his third year as the wide receiver, Breece Hall going into a solid year coming off of the injury and stuff like that. But there's still stuff that can happen.
I mean, did you hear Aaron Rodgers' quote that everybody's freaking out over, making a big deal? I don't know if it's going to be where he was talking about the young guys on the Jets, and he was basically saying there's a lot of young energy and that are going to be around for a long time, and it's going to go in from year to year. Basically, he was insinuating that he's anticipating, obviously, if he stays healthy, that he's anticipating he'll be here for more than 1 year.
Yeah, so I actually think I wouldn't be surprised if he does 3 years. I wouldn't be surprised depending on how successful they are. I think.
If they, by any chance, in the next 2 years win the Super Bowl, I think he's done. I think he's looking to do a Super Bowl and done.
It's one of those things. I think Jets winning a Super Bowl, and the way that a lot of media people are Jet fans. If you look at ESPN, if you look at people that used to be on ESPN, a lot of the people are, Jet fans. Adam Schefter, Mike Greenberg. And then you have Rich Eisen. There's a lot of them. I think it would be one of those things where he would be iconic, not just in New York, just in the NFL. Like, to bring a team that's been desperate for a championship that's been failed with Pennington and Mark Sanchez and this person and that person. I think maybe he would retire. That could be a reason why. If he wins it first year, maybe he comes back for a second, see if he can do a double-double, because I think he still wants to prove. And I think it also depends on how Love does. If Love is doing well, I think he wants to outdo Love in Green Bay.
Yeah, okay. So we know that Aaron Rodgers and the offensive coordinator know each other. So basically they're bringing Rodgers' offensive scheme and playbook to the Jets, which is great for Aaron Rodgers. But how about the rest of the team? You think there's going to be some growing pains now because basically everybody except for Aaron is learning a whole new offense in this offseason. Now, they do have the entire preseason and everything that's gone on so far this summer to get used to it or to learn it. But that could be, because my concern is, do we have the offensive line to protect him so that he doesn't get hurt, so he doesn't get knocked down too many times because he's old?
I'm excited about the young center. I don't know if he's going to start. Mekhi Becton, who everybody's wondering if he's going to be the left tackle. He comes back if he's healthy, if he's dominant as he started his career before the injury started hitting him. And then you have AVT at left guard, and he comes back healthy from last year's injury. I think you're going to have a really awesome young line. But I also, you mentioned about the players may not know and everything else. Hackett and Rodgers has said this, and Hackett has said this. The offense, Hackett has done a multitude of offenses throughout his career, different styles, and he melds it together. The only thing that's going to be an issue for the players is the verbiage, like to make sure the verbiage is in. And Rodgers already said that's his goal, is to work with them to make sure they know how his verbiage is going to be, what he likes and Hackett likes. And he's already said, I have to learn some new things as well, because Hackett's going to bring in some new things based on the talent he has, because that's what he does. So I don't see that big of a problem. And I just think the talent, you have Lazard coming in at wide receiver, so he's going to have a connection there that already knows the offense. You have Cobb, who's coming in as a wide receiver, whether it's through training camp or just as a fourth or fifth receiver. He knows the offense. Garrett Wilson seems like a stud already. I saw some things today about how him and Rodgers are already in sync already. It seems like they're saying, like, it looks like.
Okay.
Um, I really think it comes down to the tight ends are veteran tight ends. You have CJ Uzama and Tyler Conklin, and then Ruckert is a young guy. The offense, I think, is going to be fine. I think we're going to have a very good offense. I'm worried about the defense taking a step back just because they did so well. But you have everybody coming back. I don't know. I'm just really excited.
I know, and I know all the Jets fans that I do know are very excited too. I just have 50 years of skepticism, so I was excited back when Rex Ryan was here, and we had that one playoff season with butt fumble Sanchez, and and then of course it all fell apart again. I guess I don't see how the defense. I can understand the fear of how the defense, but I think Sauce has something to prove this year. I think there's an edge to the defense, just from what I've seen on social media, that they don't feel like they're getting the respect that they earned last year, and so they're going to be out to prove the entire league wrong for doubting them. That's what I think.
Well, you're right. There is some sense of doubt, but the reason why I just get nervous is because if you go back to last season, there was a lot of second string, third string quarterbacks that were in Miami. I think they never played Tua for the whole game because he got knocked out, and then Bridgewater got knocked out, and then they got stuck with whatever his name was the backup for there. They looked good against Allen in both games, but I just get nervous because you're literally going against the top quarterbacks in the NFL. You have Jalen Hurts, with Philly. You have twice with Josh Allen. You have Patrick Mahomes. You're going to have all these top line quarterbacks with some really good skill position players. Is the team going to hold them down? Because if they can do it with, last year, I get nervous. Miami is a decent team. They have a very good offense. Can they stop him when Tua is there? Because Tua is in sync with them. I get nervous.
Yeah, but I think the difference this year was last year, because of the quarterback situation, there was a fear about being able to put up points. I think there's going to be, hopefully, if Aaron Rodgers comes in and he's going to give a boost of confidence that, if we get behind 7 points, we can get it back because we got Aaron Rodgers.
Oh, that's
or on the flip side, if they get the early lead, it's going to give them an extra little pep in their step. Like, all right, now they're really going to press because we got a lead. We can make some extra plays happen here. We're not just playing, hold them down kind of stuff. So I just think that the defense as a whole is going to have a step up. I think they'll be in the top 5. Just because of their
a big. I think they could be in that range, close to it. I mean, just in terms of. If anything, I think it's going to be a coin flip each game. Who's going to be the reason if they lose a game? Is it going to be the offense or is it going to be the defense? And I think that I get nervous that the defense is going to have that on there, like where they lose the game because of the fact that, they're just playing more talented teams. And that's my biggest fear.
You sound like a 45-year-old Jet fan, Bri.
Hey,
you got the Jet doubt. It's still in there.
Oh, I am the most optimistic pessimist. I think most people put me in. Like, they get annoyed because I always think the Jets.
I'm the opposite. I'm a pessimistic optimist.
So, like, I think the Jets are going to do really well. I would not be surprised if they win the division. I would not be surprised if they ended up with the first or second or third best record. Would not be surprised. What you mentioned about with the defense and with where we think the offense is going to go now that you have a legit quarterback. We're not getting Rodgers from last year. We're going to get Rodgers, I think, MVP Rodgers from 2 years ago. I think that's what we're going to get.
Well, one of the things I heard today was even if you got Rodgers from last year and you put him into the Jets team last year, it would have been a vast improvement. We probably would have gone 10-7.
Yes.
If you would have had how Aaron Rodgers played last year and you put it into with the Jets and how they played last year, we would have won some of those close games that we lost. And we would have had more confidence at the end. I remember the game we went to in Miami. It was kind of a little bit brutal to watch. And because we just didn't have the confidence in our quarterback to score some runs.
Yeah.
Score some points.
It's, yes, 100% agree. You put Rodgers last year performance with the Jets last year, and I think they make the playoffs. I think they squeak in possibly into the playoffs easily.
So that could be so even if we just get what Rodgers did last year, I think we'll be okay. And then if we get a vast improvement, like you said, where he's going to have a phenomenal year, as long as he stays healthy, I think we definitely have. I think we make the playoffs this year. I don't know if we make it out of the playoffs because, like you said, it's just brutal. It's going to be a dogfight. Especially we're going to have to go through Mahomes and KC, and that's going to be just brutal.
Well, I mean, but again, I also think it comes down to how the schedule is. The NFL is a perfect. I love NFL scheduling. I think it's the best out of any professional sport. I think they are the best at scheduling their games because I already know the Jets' schedule. All but 3 games for every year for the next 15, 20 years. I know who they're playing. I may not know if it's a home away, but you know they're getting 6 games in the division. You know they're playing 4 teams in one specific division that rotates every year in your own conference. Another 4 from the other conference that rotates every 4 years or 3 years for the AFC teams and 4 years for the NFC teams. And then you get 2 games against teams that are at the same spot within your conference, wherever you are. So they have the benefit of okay, thank you. They have the benefit.
Somebody agrees with you.
Yeah, have the benefit of they're going to have the benefit of having to play the 4th seed in the other 2 conferences from the North and the South because they're playing the West, I believe, all this year. So it's if you can't do apples to apples, last year's success or unsuccess can't be equated to this year's because you're playing a completely different NFC division and a completely different AFC division, and depending on where you feel, you're playing completely different players. It's very frustrating. They just happen to get, to me, 2 of the tougher divisions outside of their own. They got the NFC East. Well, Dallas, you never know, is a competitive team. They have talent on it. You have Philadelphia, the Super Bowl contending team coming out of the NFC. And then you have the Giants, they're competitive. Whatever. I'm not worried too much about them, but they're going to be a competitive team. I like Dable, their coach. I think he's phenomenal. I wanted the Jets to get him before they got Saleh. And then you have the Commanders, which is going to be garbage. But then you go to then you have the AFC West, and you have Kansas City. You have the Chargers. You have Oakland. I mean, Vegas might not be that great depending on how Garoppolo does. And then you have Denver, who you never know if Russell. If Russell goes back to being Russell from previously, they could be a very difficult team to beat. So it's just me. It's not apples to apples. It's every year it changes. So I don't like to necessarily look too much at the past, except for how players do for our team.
I think a big thing for the Jets is getting over the hurdle of beating the Patriots. You know, to go, what was it, 8 seasons or 4, however many years it's been since they beat the Patriots. So that to me is going to be if the first time they face them, I don't know if are they home or away against the Patriots the first time they play them, but that's going to be a bellwether.
Right now they start the season off. What was this last year? Okay, the preseason. So they start off at home against the Bills. They're at home against the Patriots on week 3. Okay. So they're right before their bye week. It's an insane group. You have at home against Buffalo, away against the Cowboys, at home against New England, at home against the Chiefs, away against Denver, and home against the Eagles before they hit their bye.
Ooh, that's a brutal 6-week.
And then you come back and you're going against your city rival, who's going to own New York Giants.
Yeah, the Giants.
At home, which is not too bad. And then you're home against the Chargers. And then you have Oakland, and then you have Buffalo again, and then you have Miami. And to me, Miami is the scariest team of all of them. I think the Jets do well against Buffalo. I think they have the right players. They drafted the right players on defense, especially with Jermaine Johnson for the speed to deal with Josh Allen. I get nervous with the Dolphins because their receivers are studs, and they have Waddle. To me, I like Waddle more than I like Tyreek Hill. And if 2 is in there because he's accurate, it's going to be scary. No matter if you have Sauce Gardner or DJ Reed. To me, it's just they're the scarier team because if 2 is in there, they are explosive offense. They could put up 40 points easily. Okay. And I'm worried about how the defense can relate to that. But
I like the fact that the Jets don't play Miami until the end. They play week 12? Week 12 at home. and then week 15 so they play them twice in 3 weeks, or in 4 weeks, 3 weeks, 12, 13, yeah, 4 weeks, whatever they play them. So, and it's near the end of the season, so those could be make or break it games.
Well, that's what I'm saying. If they can go 3-3 in those first 6 games, if they can somehow go 3-3, you look at that schedule with the Giants. I mean, I know I was talking hard about it, but I mean, comparatively, that's a very good schedule at the end to.
Yeah, well, they got the Commanders, they got the Browns, which could be a nemesis, and then they play the Patriots week 18.
Mm-hmm. And they have the Texans, which are rebuilding, Falcons, which are rebuilding. So, and the Raiders may, depending on what they have Devontae with Garoppolo. So, and if they get Josh Jacobs to re-sign, that's going to be a tough team offensively to face.
Well, my favorite game of the year is going to be the Week 10, the Raiders game.
Well, that's because we're going to be there.
Exactly. That's why it'll be fun. But all right, let me ask you this. So what's your take on Hard Knocks? Are you for it, against it, neutral?
Neutral to it. I mean, everybody wants to say it's like the kiss of death. The reality is the majority of teams that have done Hard Knocks, the preseason in the training camp version, have improved their records. And if that's what you're looking for, you improve records. It's almost like a 2 to 1 or 2 out of 3 of the teams always improve their record. The only thing is the catch-22 is none of them made the playoffs in the last 14 years. And it's odd. I think the 14th year would be the last time the Jets were at Hard Knocks.
Yeah.
It's just, I have no problems with it. It's not going to be a distraction. The Jets already do something similar to it. I know I was telling you previously, One Jets Drive to me is better than Hard Knocks. They didn't want Hard Knocks. They didn't need Hard Knocks. Fans didn't need it. We got our own thing. But I don't think it's not going to be that big of a distraction.
Yeah, well, I know they did come out and say they're not going to allow them to film when they're cutting players.
Oh my God, that's just so heartbreaking right there.
Well, I think it's I think that's a good thing. I think that's a sad thing to put on TV to, the lowest day of a player's. Well, it's kind of like what they did on American Idol and all that stuff when they started out, and they used to show the really bad people. It's like, just don't put them on TV. Just let it go. Let those people suffer in silence.
Yeah, I mean, you don't need to do that. They're trying to bring that emotional drama, but it's not needed. You're going to get enough. I just want to know who's the young guy that's impressing. I want to know who's the veteran that it may be on the decline or is going to be the solid guy this year. Who's the guy that's coming back from injury that's going to really be important for the team? Like, that's the kind of stuff I'm looking for. How well are they gelling? And then of course a little side interesting stories is not too bad. But we already get that. That's the only thing I have. I hate this that the Jets had to be one of the teams. Is because we already watched One Jets Drive. I know you're not as familiar with it, but it is phenomenal. Because One Jets Drive, they show it. They do before the draft, right after the season ends. They do a whole series of episodes leading up through the draft and through the rookie mini camp, and then they bring it back for training camp. So like,
are they still doing that now, even though they're going to have Hard Knocks?
It was announced. So this is the funny part, and this is where I think it's the Jets giving a little FU to the NFL and Hard Knocks because they didn't really want it. They supposedly the rumors that they tooth and nail not to have it. So the Jets Hard Knock premieres on August 8th, Tuesday, August 8th. The first episode of One Jets Drive, take flight. When do you think that's coming out?
August 7th.
Yep, August 7th, Monday, the day before.
So they're going to do it every one. They're going to do the day before.
Yep. So it literally came out when the NFL finally announced it. The Jets announced their own One Jets Drive coming back on Twitter, and it's going to be the day before. So every fan's just sitting there going, I mean, for me, it's great. We're going to get to see 2 different perspectives of how they're looking at the team, and that's going to be kind of cool.
You'll be able to contrast the two and see if you're getting the truth from Hard Knocks or not,
or even One Jet Drive. I mean, it's going to be interesting to see how both are going to play out, competing against each other to give the perspective on the Jets. And I think that if you're any fan of Hard Knocks and you're like, oh, I want to see what's Jets, check out one JD. Check that out. Go to the Jets YouTube channel. Check it out. Watch it. They're 40-minute episodes, just like Hard Knocks. It's run just like it. It's produced by it. It's Emmy Award winning. It is phenomenal. And I think it would be great.
I think you like it.
Oh yeah, I love it. I anticipate it. I'm excited for it. I always look forward to it.
Okay. All right. Well, I guess we'll see where the Jets end up this year. I'm cautiously optimistic, just based off a track record, but I think there's actually legit hype this year. I think we've had some fake hype in the past, but I think there's legit hype. especially since we already knew we were coming in with a solid defense, and our real weakness was the quarterback last year. So if we can get Aaron Rodgers to actually play, that would be really nice. So, although if he does go more than 1 year, they're going to have to restructure his contract.
Correct. Well, either way, they're going to have to restructure it because of the fact that it's like $100 million due next year or something like that.
Yeah.
So here's the thing I want to ask you, as a Jet fan, and you're 5 years older than me, so this is when I really started getting into the Jets more religiously. I'm sure you were a fan. I used to see you with the posters of the Sack Exchange and all that kind of stuff, and Klecko. That's how I learned about them. I know you and our other brother met Gastineau and I think Marty Lyons and them. And I think you have a picture, or there was a picture of of them at our house or something like that, or you at one of their houses.
Well, that's because we had Dan Sakanovich was the assistant defensive coordinator for the Jets, and he lived across the street from us as kids. Now, you were still, 2?
Yeah.
At the time. But yeah, that's the only reason why we're Jets fans, to be honest. I mean, everybody else in our area is all Giants fans. We became Jets fans because we were engulfed in Jets. One of the coaches lived on our block. So,
but it's funny because when I became a fan, we're talking about Rodgers and this guy we're hoping is going to bring us into the promised land. And all I can think about is the most tumultuously sickening. I almost want to throw it before I even say it now. Time period, the Kotite years. And do you remember who they brought in?
What, you talking about Favre?
No, I'm talking, this is before that. This is Kotite years.
Who?
This is before Parcells. This is before any of that. They brought Neil O'Donnell in after he was in the Super Bowl with Pittsburgh Steelers, and they became the coach, the quarterback of the Jets. And the Jets sucked so bad they went like 3-13 and 1-15 in the 2-year span of Kotite, and that's when we got Parcells eventually. So I'm hoping we don't have a replay of getting that kind of guy.
Yeah, I don't think we'll get that. I think we'll do all right. I think Aaron Rodgers has a track record. I mean, he still played pretty well last year, just not phenomenal.
Hey, give me Vinny Testaverde from 98. I'll take that. Vinny Testaverde from 97-98 season. I will take that in a heartbeat. That'd be best offense with a solid defense. Oh,
I want to just for one season be able to say JETS Jets and actually do it for the right reasons because we're winning and we're playing well, not just trying to hype the team up to actually get a win. That's how I look at it. So,
well, I mean, I did that in 2009, 2010. I got to say I did that with those 2 years of Rex.
Yeah.
But I always felt like we were still struggling because we were never the dominant team. We had a dominant defense, but we were like that 500 team that's going to get into the playoffs. And then the playoffs, we just don't lose with Mark Sanchez. That was the deal.
Yeah.
The guy literally has had won more playoff games in 2 years than most NFL quarterbacks do in their entire career.
Yeah, we could always get Tim Tebow back. I'm sure he'd come back and throw for us. Well, you don't want Tim Tebow back? Was it John 3:16? We can get it all on Arrivalac.
I would find out what person in the Jets organization tried to do and probably hunt them down for bringing someone like that back.
Yeah, well. All right, well, I hope the Jets do what we all hope they do. I know you and I are excited about going out to Vegas to see them play against the Raiders, so that'll be a lot of fun. If we make it to the game because we don't get kidnapped or killed beforehand because we'll be in Vegas, but a
little hangover time.
Yeah.
Hey,
what was that?
There's going to be a group of us. There's like 6 of us now going, so and maybe a couple more people I know are going to go. So it's going to be a big group of us. So at least hopefully one of us will keep an eye on each other.
Or we'll all just be a drunken mess, one of the two.
We'll I don't drink as much anymore, so I'll be good with that. I'm just worried.
Well, you know me, I don't drink that much at all, but I am not going to be driving anywhere, and I do like casinos, so it could be a problem. But I've been to Vegas enough where I don't think it'll be an issue. I'm sure Marcy will be checking in with me on the daily to make sure that I not spending too much money.
and all I hear is you going. All I can see is you texting me like, "Oh, everything's going great, honey. I only lost about $50, and I'm sitting there."
No, I'm more realistic than that. If I lose a couple hundred, that's fine. But we'll see. I'm usually pretty lucky when I gamble.
You're roulette.
I like roulette and blackjack. I know you're a craps guy, but I like roulette and blackjack. I think I have a system for the roulette, which sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. We have casinos here in Florida, but they don't have roulette. It's only that electronic stuff. But I like blackjack and roulette. That's where I'll basically be spending most of my time. I don't do
Well, I have
slots.
a system also with when it comes to craps.
Yeah, I
It's
know.
it's pretty good, but it takes a while to get to that where I get rolling. So I'm excited about it.
Yeah, I'll be that guy that just walks in, drops $200 on one hand of blackjack, and if I win, then I'm set for a little while. But we'll see. We'll see what mood I'm in November. It's a long way off,
Mm-hmm.
and I got to start squirreling some money away from my trip, so we should be
Yeah.
good. All right, let's touch for the end of this year. What do you think the Islanders? I honestly have paid very little attention to the Islanders in this offseason.
So
I know they're, from my understanding, and tell me if I'm wrong, is they kind of in a hole with some of their contracts and staying underneath the salary cap. So they haven't been able to recruit the right players. Is that somewhat correct?
no, you know what it is? This is what I hate. I've had an issue with some fans is everybody thinks you're going to get the Islanders' biggest weakness is a pure shooting, scoring winger. That's the only thing they really need. They have everything else. They have the best fourth line in hockey. They have, in my opinion, the best or top two goalies in hockey. They have very solid defensemen. Maybe they could use a more, offensive defenseman kind of thing, a guy that can move the puck both ways. But they really need that top line winger to play with Barzal and maybe either Horvat or someone else. But a lot of fans think that they grow on trees, and every player over the last number of years that the Island fans are always, oh, we should have traded for this one. We should have traded for it. The guy ended up not doing much on the team he went to. Like Duchesne was one, and everything else. This year, it was DeBrincat that was the one that everybody wanted. I wanted him just because it was a guy, a possible 40-goal scorer to put with Barzal. They didn't get him. This the second time that there was a guy they could have gotten, they could have traded for and signed a long-term deal for. The other one was Panarin, who they actually could have just signed. But I'm not too upset because I don't think their contracts are bad. What they did is that they secured a lot of players
Right.
for long periods. So these guys took lower average annuals, the ones that we think they're going to be big. They just re-signed all their players from last year that they were either restricted free agents or anything. They signed Sorokin to an extension, 8-year extension, so he's set for to be the Islanders goalie for the future. They got Wallstrom in. I think it's like 2 years or a year, and they got someone else they signed back, and they got Mayfield, and so they have the biggest thing was just missing that winger. So, but I'm not too worried about it. And this is why. So last year, the Islanders made a big splash in free agent and not free agency, trade deadline, where they got Bo Horvat, and everybody was like, "Oh my God, this is the guy we need. This guy's a 40-goal scorer. He's going to do amazing." First week and a half, him and Barzal looked like they were going to have a special connection, and then Barzal went down for an injury, and that just hurt. I think the team's ability to gel going into the playoffs. And then when Barzal came back, it just wasn't like the same. They didn't have that end of the season to grow together with him and Horvat. And I think now everybody's trying to figure out because technically Barzal is a center and so is Horvat. I almost have too many centers is really what it is. So when everybody thought they were going to trade for Brinkat, they were going to trade away probably JG Pajot, who's their fourth center, or fourth or fifth center, like a very good player they can get some commodity out of. But I love JG. So to me, it's just really whether or not this is going to gel. How they're going to set up their lineups. It's not going to be that much different from last year. I really just don't get everybody thinking that you can just pick off the shelf and you're going to all of a sudden get it. The players got to want to come here. And there are people that just want to go home. DeBrincat wanted to go home. He's from Detroit. Tavares wanted to leave us. He wanted to go to Toronto. I hate him. I think he's disgusting. I think he should have done it differently. He could have allowed the Islanders to trade him and then get some capital, and he goes and screws over whoever he got traded to. But it's just they freak out, Islander fans, thinking that they should be able to get these players, and it really comes down to we had the money. We were going to pay this guy. We were going to pay a recent salary for DeBrincat. But Lou Lamoriello is just not going to pay anybody. He knows certain players that play a system he likes. He rewards them with long-term, reasonable contracts in a couple of years. Not going to hurt it. Everybody assumed that the NHL's salary cap was going to increase a little bit more than it actually did. And that's where it comes down to. They had about $8 million after him doing all these things. They could have gotten DeBrincat for that. But instead, they would have had a trade. They were going to lose Nelson. They would have traded Pajot. It would have worked out. They would have got him. But he didn't want to come here. And that's where I think it came down.
Yeah, I mean, last season they kind of squeaked into the playoffs. So I had a little bit of hope. And then when I watched the playoff games, I was just like, they're just not ready yet. That was my take is just, again, I didn't follow them religiously last season. So when I really tuned into the playoffs, I was like, I can just tell they weren't there yet.
Well, you got to remember the new head coach came in, Lambert. He was under Trotz's leadership for a number of years, and he took over the Islanders, and he tried to open up the offense a little bit. They just don't have. I'm honestly saying, you put a legit scorer on that one on the Islanders first line, and you switch the players around, you're going to have two of the top two best lines. Top two lines are going to be amazing because you have Barzal, Horvat, Brock Nelson, Palmieri if he comes back. Palmieri is going to be here. But all these players that you can shift around, Lee up in front, and you have Wallstrom maybe dropping down. They just need that one person. If they get that, the Islanders are a legit Stanley Cup contender, in my opinion.
All right. Like I said, I'll be paying much more attention this season just to see what's going on with them. But so we're going to finish this up. I want to thank you, Bri, for being in our first official brother podcast here. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put up your Twitter and my Twitter here. So anybody wants to. I'm also going to put up there, if you guys want to join the podcast, we can do up to 3-4 people. Just send me a text at 561-320-7441. You can talk Yankees, Jets, Islanders. Let us know what you think. Let me get that one black.
My Twitter's wrong.
What is it?
It's IKEN 81 Jets.
Oh, all right. I'll fix that for next time. So, but IKEN 81 Jets. There you go. I screwed it up, but that's all right. But that's Brian, and I'm Carl. Thanks for tuning in here for the I Can Say It podcast here, talking Yankees, Jets, and Islanders. Right here, we're in Yankee season, so we're looking not that great, but we will try to do this once a week and get this out to everybody. So, follow us on, Twitter, YouTube, and I even have a TikTok. So, Brian, you want to make some TikTok just send me videos and I'll post them for you. Put them out there when you want to talk Jets or Islanders or even Yankees. We'll go from there.
Hey, listen, I'm a sports person overall, so I'll even talk like what's going on. Like, next week we'll get into maybe a little bit of the running back situation that's going on around the NFL, and we'll talk a little bit about Dalvin Cook, where he's going to go, and a few other players.
That sounds great. But I mean, seriously, if you just throw together some videos, like just take a 1-2 minute video of something that's on your mind, I'll throw it up there. The more the merrier. So anyway, this is the I Can Say It podcast. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you later.